Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Friday day, I shouldn't say night, live lighting critique. Go ahead and, all right, I am all set up and ready to go. Okay, so normally I do these recordings on Facebook Live, but it was being super finicky. So we are in YouTube Live. I wanted to test this out as well. We did this a couple weeks ago. I wanted to keep this going. And today what we're going to be doing is going through some of the work of the Academy of Animated Art lighting students and taking a look at some of the submissions just from the last 24 hours. I do these reviews every day, Monday through Friday. And then on Mondays and Fridays, we go live with them so that more people can see and benefit from the critiques that are going on. So we see some submissions from our lighting challenge for the month. This is the Poker Puss, designed by Disney's Chris Ayers. So I'm not going to do much more prefacing, so let's just get right into it. So we are, let's go to the beginning here. All right, so Aaron, I think you were up first. Let me just make sure. Yeah, William, and then, okay. So, Aaron, this is your reference. This is from the Joker film. You submitted a couple of, so for this assignment, for you guys that don't know, this is matching reference from a film on simple primitives. So, Aaron, you got one last submission in just under the wire here. So this is slightly different. The one big thing that I wanted to say, well, first off, I love the improvements that you made from the last one. I love the more dynamic look of this backdrop back here. And it looks like you maybe used some gobos or different colored lights. Really cool stuff to kind of mimic what was going on in the original, right? Like we're seeing, like this tone isn't from a different colored light. It's from the backscatter coming through the curtain, but you were able to recognize that as a different tone, a different value. So mimicking that in your scene is very cool. The one thing that I would say is that you do see some elements. It's not much, but you do see some elements from these colors influencing him. You can see it on his hand. You can see it right here on his nose, on his neck a little bit. And it would be great in yours if you kind of got a similar feel. Like, so there's a little bit more of this warm color kind of sneaking around on these edges here, especially kind of getting into the middle here, because that interior of that guy is going to be a little bit on the dark side. The other big thing, judging from your two here, I actually like the first iteration that you post a little bit better, just because is if you shift these over, like what happens is this vertical line becomes much more apparent, because like now it's a very bright value versus a dark value, and you just like all I'm reading is this hard edge. It's kind of penetrating our main object right there, and that's not necessarily what we want. I like the idea of this being a more subtle, softer transition between those two. Um, so I think that this is actually working out a little bit better. And again, just getting a little bit more of that rim light on there. I do like uh, the light that's kind of shining through here, and just like the variation you're getting on this pole, like going top to bottom. You can see that like those slashing lines coming through. The one thing about it, though, is that it is a little, let's see, it is a little bit distracting. Like if I went ahead and um, blurred up this image a whole bunch, just to kind of get an idea of what is drawing our eye the most, not that much. So like, I'm looking for areas that pop. Like definitely this background's popping, but it's also more like down in here and then up on that pole there and less on the ball. So what I want is those like brighter values to be happening on our main subject matter to get that to pop off a little bit more. But that would be my main advice for you there. But I think this one's coming together really well, and I think you're doing a really nice job of making progress on this. And again, this is all just like first time lighting, getting used to the tools, getting used to the feedback process, and being used to seeing light and color and value in a different way. And you're definitely demonstrating that. Aaron, you are up next. So great improvement here. Love the God rays coming in. The thing that we want to do now is we've lost some of the, and this is because we've added this atmospheric, we've added this perspective to it, is we've lost some of the dark values. And I think that we can sneak some more in um, on our octopus here, maybe even specifically on his face, but I think there's an opportunity to get a little more dark value in him there. And again, I know this isn't, um, 100% photoreal would happen because he's like a little bit further back in the space and there would be a little bit more murkiness. It's just that he's kind of blending, like, because you don't want him to stand out too much, but he is kind of blending in a little bit too much with the surroundings. So just by pulling down those dark values just a little bit, we can get him to read a little more. In terms of the shaft of light, these God rays, they're a little tight. They're a little like hard lined. Um, when light passes through water, it gets scattered a lot. There's a lot, like again, with that murkiness, with that, with all like the refraction that happens when light hits water, you wouldn't see like a lot. Just like you see this like kind of hard dark line. That would be the edge of that would be much softer. Let's see what else. I'm wondering if, and you can disagree with me or not do this. I'm wondering if now that we're adjusting it and pulling in some different values, if that warm light on his face is feeling a little bit too orange. And I don't necessarily think you need to go like red with it or anything, but just neutralize it a lot. Like take down the saturation by 50% and just see, because it may actually work out more harmoniously with the scene. Again, it won't match the reference perfectly that we had before, but it's the reference is a good starting point, and now we're kind of building off it. Because I think if we, let me just try it. This might be a little janky, but take this and I reduced the saturation in the, still in the oranges. Like if I took that down a little bit, like I think that'll help kind of tie the whole image together. Because right now, I think it's really pretty that we're getting all these blues and cools and magentas in there. It's just that orange color is kind of standing out to me now as being a little bit too much. So I think that's really good. And then also the size and scale of these caustics are a little, it's a little bit too small. I would make them bigger, basically, because caustics are all about like balancing. It's all about helping communicate the scale of the object. And so this octopus is like, I don't know, you can decide, because I'm thinking of him as being slightly smaller than human. And if that case, the caustic would be a little bit like about double the size of what we're seeing there. So I would try and push more towards that. I love the particulates in the air. I just think that like, just thinking overall. Let's see here. I mean, what if just like overall we allowed the brights to get a little brighter here too? Yeah, so it's kind of not that more, just more a little bit more punchiness to it. I think your saturation point is in a really good spot, but I think we just pop up the brights and darks a little bit, and that'll really work. So like this from where we were at the beginning here, and then this might be like, because we upped the contrast a little bit. I think we pushed the saturation a little hard, so maybe more like that. Yeah, but I think you're heading in a really nice direction. But again, soften the God rays, reduce the saturation on the key light on him, increase the scale on the caustics, and then find some more dark values in the character around the table there too would be really helpful. So good progress there as well. Alfredo, we've got an update on yours. I still think you can go brighter in the key. I still think we can push that a little bit, because again, it's like indirect sunlight. And I think, yeah. And then again, whenever I do that, it cranks around the saturation, so you can take that down. And color correction wise, it just, yeah, it's okay there. I'm just thinking that like, like when I looked at this, I just think that we can, yeah, like this value, I think we can sneak a little bit more of the blue tone, like just a little bit more saturation in the cooler tones and the shadows specifically. Um, I like the material values on the eye patch are much better and much more in line with the character as a whole. But it's just like looking at this at the reference, it just screams sunny day because the character's like kind of clipping out towards the whites and the highs. And I think we can go there um, a little bit stronger. Even like, let's just look at the ground here. If I took this and made this like about that level of brightness, and then just kind of blend it in. Oof. You know, if it was this bright around the character, I think that would make a big difference in selling it that it's like a bright sunny day. So I think you can push that a little bit more, and that might be a matter of making the ground a little bit brighter too. Although that might um, hurt the shadows. It might just be a matter of like creating a separate key light just for the ground versus the key light for the character, and then increase and then just bumping that up a little bit in its intensity. Um, I love the like the little specular highlights you're getting on the eyes, the little button eyes. I wonder if that's totally your call. I'm wondering if we couldn't get a little bit more texture on this patch. It just feels like there's so much texture on everything else on this character. It's just that feels a little bit flat. So try maybe just adding a little bump to that too. I think that would certainly help out a lot. And then the last thing I would kind of vignette and darken just a little bit of this corner up here. Um, just like in post, just like darken, and maybe this one back here too. Just like darken these corners so that we can really kind of read in more on the character. But yeah, overall, I think that's great. And then like the other thing, I would do a little bit more saturation in the character, but like that's totally your call as to the character's color palette, and how you want that character to read. But for me, um, like I would just want like a little bit more something like this. But I'll let you decide on that. So yeah, good job. All right, moving on to Ashley. Ashley, big progress, man. This is looking really, really good. Um, I think, yeah, because the haze is certainly helping out a lot. The color is fun. I want to see how would I do this. So at this point, I feel like so. Truth be told, when I'm working on something like this, we've changed this quite a bit from where you started, and what I think is that um, now would be a good time with like you've got 12 days until this is due to take a step back and knowing what we know now and knowing how we want to structure this, I would almost create a scene and maybe just like an alt and then delete the lights and start again because it would be I think because we kind of were going one way and then pull back and then it did a different way. Um, and now that we have a full understanding of what we want to do, because I'm trying to think of the structure here, right? Um, got the image. You've already got the haze there. That's all done up. You've got the background's in a good place. The sign for now is in a good place. We can mess with that. Um, but there are some things that I'm seeing, like the fact that these cards aren't like really getting the same. They don't feel like they're getting the same light as the stuff around it. The octopus's face is again getting a little bit flattened out here by this light. I like this rim on the character, but I'm wondering, if that should be a little bit more saturated to play up the surroundings. So, you've got the caustic. That's a good size for the caustic. Actually looking at this, like there's a sharp shadow there you may want to look into. Something's not quite right there. But basically you've got like these core elements, and I think that and again, this is only because the way that I work, it's just like additive, that by the time you get to this point, you've just got like a bunch of lights going on and too much. So I would almost take a step back, just have this light here, and this one might be this suffering a similar thing as Aaron's, which is, I'm wondering if we shouldn't. I would try to neutralize this light a little bit more in terms of its like in terms of that orange contribution, because I think it's providing a little bit too much of a difference from the surroundings, which is good, but it's like it's almost pushing the red into a place that's not that not super appealing. So yeah, so okay. So I would want to have bounce light coming up, rim light here on the character, this light here, and then this bounce light, since it's shining up, I do want to see it on the cards a little bit. And then I want to find a better way of integrating this pool into the background here, because right now it looks like there's like blue pool, purple edge, and it's just kind of like a hard line around it. So that would be another one too. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing that's like super technically wrong here. It's just like, if like I'm looking at it and it feels like there's too many lights in the scene. So I want to simplify it down. Let's do that. Let's just do one light here. The bounce fill light from underneath this, a rim light around the character, and then a global like sky dome light to kind of help fill in, because we really want to kind of fill in like these values too. But yeah, I think and like again, this is not a step back. This is just the way that I work, which is like, you kind of start one way, and then as you're going down that path, you realize you want to shift it a little bit. Then as you shift it, things start to get too complex. So then, because like as you shift it, you're like, yes, this is the direction we want to go. Okay, so let's strip and let's build. Let's make it most efficient for that. Because again, the things that we're looking for, because it's overcomplicated lights, and also it feels like there's some light linking going on that's not helping us. So I think let's not light link. Try those few lights. We'll see where we land. We can make adjustments to the shaders as needed from there, and then we'll be humming along. But just make sure you save it out as a separate file and keep what's here, because we can always go back and pull from this. So I would have you try that over the weekend, and then we'll take a look again on Monday. Jordan, good stuff. Shaping's much better. Contrast is much better. The biggest thing that's throwing me, there's two things. Number one, and I saw your note about the low poly on the character. I mean, you could smooth it, but like, if that's the way the character is, that's the way the character is. The biggest one for me is like, you've got this very large yellow shape like right in the foreground that's taking up probably 30% of the shot. For me, I would make sure to add some sort of like subsurface scattering to this, so that the light at least passes through this a little bit more, and it kind of like fills that in and glows that up, because that material is going to be semi-transparent, translucent, like there's going to be light that shines through it, and you're going to feel that color bleed on the other side. So make sure that's in there. The other one is just, it's so weird. It's just the angle of this wrist. There's something about it that's just like throwing me off. I guess it's the fact that his hand, I don't know, like I just it doesn't feel natural that his hand would have that like soft. I guess if you have, I don't know, like that hand just feels a little funny to me. it's the wrist joint. It's the position of the wrist joint that just it just like feels like disconnected from the rest of the body. Maybe I'm crazy, and if I am, feel free to ignore me. The other thing is like watch out for this right on the border down here. I was noticing that, so I would just like clean that off. And take that out because you don't want just something introduced right here on the corner because that looks like trees or something that makes him now feel like 80 feet tall. Go in with a little bit of a rim light here. Add that in a little bit as well. And then as we go forward, the eyes, the reflection is cool, but you don't want too much of that over the pupil. You want to make sure that the pupil is staying nice and dark. Because when you start clouding up the pupil too much with reflections, it makes the eyes look a little bit a little more like that. It just makes them look like a little bit glazed over, like there's a little bit of disconnect, and especially a character of this much focus and desire and so much like energy, you want the eyes to be crystal clear. Only if like I think in Toy Story 4 they did this with Woody's eyes. They made them pretty cloudy at the beginning until his purpose was known, and then they like really sharpened them up. And then just watch out. It looks like there's a hard shadow line. Oh, there's a hard shadow line here. So watch out for that. Yeah, see, it's just like the angle that we're looking at. It just makes it look like a mannequin's hands. Or like actually like a rubber doll. Maybe if we could just just angle a little more forward so it's a little bit, and mostly it's because there's an arrow on his hand that's throwing me off. Like if you just angle his hand a little bit more forward, I think that would help out. Even if that means like adjusting the aspect ratio so it clips in, I think that'll be good. Yeah, the little rim kick on this side, and I think we'll be good. Yeah, very, 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 very good improvement from the beginning. Oh, Vivian, I think we looked at this one. Did we look at this one yesterday? No, we didn't. This is from today. Hello, Vivian. How are you? Welcome to the group. So we've got yours and Williams. Also, we've got one animated shot I wanted to look at too. Monsters, I guess Monsters Inc. The original, great movie. Absolutely loved it. Love the the focus of the light coming down on these guys. This is such a hero shot. Like this is so perfect for them. It feels a little bit lifted from the original film, but I could be wrong on that. Like it feels like there would be a little bit more like this. But sometimes the reproductions in the internet can be a little off. But yeah, just like really strong hero lighting. Like you see the shaping coming across both the characters. I would have expected the background to go a little bit darker back here. But they kept it pretty, it's a bright and happy. It's like the morning time. They're showing up for work. I could see them going that bright with it. Yeah, that makes sense with me. But just like overall, like nothing but pure joy out of these characters. Getting them to pop off the background was interesting. So you've got this very blue set, the blue painted walls, and you need to figure out a way to get blue Sully to pop off from it. And so they added this kind of like hazy, glowy, warm tone behind him. Because like check it out, it does not fall at all on his face, right? Like it's 0% on his face here. It all lines up behind him, and it stops before it gets down to Mike Wazowski, so it does not interfere with his read over the cooler background. Or actually, he's more reading off of this the brightness of the ground here, and so he doesn't have to really pop off. But his green tones are more yellow green, and so they will pop up from the blues a little bit. Trying to think what else. We got good eye dings on all these one-eyed guys. Good shaping even on these two off to the left. Also, like, look at the richness. Again, this was like, what, the year 2001? When fur was so hard. Like, they're still getting richness and shaping in the fur that it's really, really inspirational. William. So this is original. You said this was from the Wolfman movie. We got Anthony Hopkins. It's like a prison scene. You talked in your breakdown of how this light is directing the viewer's eye. Totally dead on. It's also interesting when you're doing like a prison lighting thing that you always want, unless you have a specific reason, you so often see the light missing the character, right? Like because they don't have a connection to the outside world because they're incarcerated, they're inside. Um, and so like you unless you want to show them having hope for the release, generally you'll have the light missing them. It's kind of like the light of the world is missing them, things are passing them by kind of a thing. But yeah, visually directly in the viewer's eye. You did a really cool thing, which I really appreciated, which was painting out uh, that that light and how the read towards Anthony Hopkins' character differs. I also think it's nice that this little bit, because this light there creates an opportunity for some more like bounce light, which actually creates a very very subtle rim around this character to get the silhouette to read off in the background. But you're totally right. This light shining here, which creates bounce light back on him, which creates some shaping, um, and it kind of like creates brightness all around him, which again allows his darker form to pop off. So this is a good example of dark over light on this side and then light over dark on this side. Um, but because there's more contrast on the screen right side, your eye is definitely drawn there. The other thing I would point out about this is the color palette of a shot like this. Super cools, right? Just coolness all over the shot. These are warm flesh tone characters with but their flesh has been completely drained of any warmth, and now it's all just like kind of a steely blue color. So something to think about when you're lighting your own characters too. So let's hop over. Actually, let me actually share my screen differently here for a second, so you can see what I'm about to hop over here and see. And again, I'm checking the YouTube live. If you have any questions at all, make sure you throw them in the comment section down below. But I do want to take a look at Holly's submission here. So let's share that. Okay. All right, so we have Holly's submission here. This is from another one of the assets from our asset library. This is our sci-fi city. So again, see the car, I would still remove this like barrier here, because it does look like the car drives through the median on the road. I think the headlights and taillights make sense. The one problem is the headlights generally are substantially brighter than the taillights. So I think the headlights might go up in value a little bit, but the taillights could go way down. So it's just like a red halo around the back. I would still like to see a little bit of that light hit the buildings if you can, or more importantly, the street surrounding, because think about it, like the headlights shine down and they'll create more bounce light around. Um, in terms of the rest of the set, it's looking pretty good. I would add a little bit, if you can add a little bit more aerial perspective, a little atmospheric fog into that corner. That'll help set that back into space a little bit, and allow the dark tones of this building to pop forward. So just one thing to be aware of there. Movement of the camera is much better. Yeah, I think that's a good place. I think that's a good place to go from here. I think that'll, if we hit those, we'll be pretty far along. And then for your final render, there's still a lot of noise here in the foreground screen, right? Just to be aware of there, you might have to re-render that at a higher, unfortunately, like either more samples or at a larger resolution, then scale it down. Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for today, everybody. Oh, and then, last thing, that is not it for today. These street lights can go a touch brighter too. Like their cord just feels clipped off. It might be the compression that YouTube did, but just something to be aware of there. Okay, well that's it for today, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me. Go ahead and stop the share now. Thank you for allowing me to talk to you from vacation. As you can see, I'm in a lovely wicker bed, which is not awkward at all to do your work from. But that's the way it goes. Again, two little kids running around and got some family here as well. So yeah, if you guys have any questions at all, please let me know. And if I don't talk to you, have a wonderful weekend. And I look forward to talking to you more on Monday. All right, guys, happy lighting.